So our objectives for this session would be three. So first one is to discuss something about research attributes, no, the one that we're working on our capsules. And by the way, no, I'm still of course checking your outputs for the introduction. And so far so good naman. So we're going to return that immediately after we completed, of course, checking your introduction. So topic number two, one of the most important topics in nursing research, lumalabas to sa board exam, has something to do with what we call sampling. How are we going to select our subjects or respondents for our study? And third, we're going to discuss about research instruments. So how are you going to gather your data? So what are the measurements that you're going to use? Okay, so for us to be able to be guided on where we're going to, okay, so let me, of course, give you, no? Let me, of course, give you again your research capsule format. So ito yung research capsule that we uploaded ano, in your Canvas Nursing Research 1. And as you can see, we already accomplished some of the areas. Okay? So we're done with proponents. So tapos na tayo dito sa proponents, di ba? So tapos na tayo dito. So we're also done with the field of specialization. You just put there Bachelor of Science in Nursing. You're done with the research project title. So last time I gave you, no? I gave you your simulacrum, and of course, we also refine your research project title. So yun muna yung gagamitin natin ngayon. Okay? So usually ang title, sa huli yan pina-finalize talaga. So based on the flow of the research. Then, we already finalized your simulacrum. We discussed introduction and academic writing last time. And we also identify your research questions. So your research questions are actually included on the final simulacrum that we refined previously. Okay, so at this point, we are now going to fill up this portion of your research capsule. Okay, so paano natin siya i-fill up? So number one, research approach. So sa research approach, everybody should include mixed method. Okay, so mixed method approach, because all of you will be working on quanti and quali paper. Okay, so again, this is a constant information. Research approach should be mixed method. Research method and design, so this will be discussed. Research technique, this will be discussed. Sampling technique, this will be discussed today. Research domain, you just put there nursing. Okay, research domain, you just put there nursing. Again, that's another constant. And delineated factors variables to be included in your study, or yung what we call the medical subject heading or mesh. So this will include the variables of your study. No? So again, so what we're going to do is we're going to put here mixed method. We're going to put here at the research domain nursing. So delineated delineated factors or variables or mesh. So we're going to fill this up ano pa, no? So in our future discussions pa. So we're going to be discussing sampling technique and of course the tools that we're going to use. Okay? So yun yung discussion natin for today. So but before we proceed with our topic, let us have a review of our quantitative and qualitative research and a combination of both. The one that we're calling mixed method approach now. So again, we discussed previously that in research we have two approaches. First one is quantitative research. So when we say quantitative research, we are working on numbers. We convert everything to numbers, just like, for example, the usual survey. When you were asked to quantify your satisfaction in a certain restaurant, no, or a service of a company, so usually you're going to convert it into numbers. So for example, um, identify your satisfaction with the services given by the company. 1 as being the lowest, and 5 being the highest. So you're going to rate. So that is an example of quantitative research. Another would be experimental. No? Yung mga experimental research natin wherein we conduct it in the laboratory, we measure, no? So these are also under quantitative approach of research. We also do have research in the clinical area when we sometimes obtain the biophysiological measures of our clients. So merong mga research, no, yung mga advanced research na they identify the temperature, the blood pressure, then they correlate that into a specific condition, etc. So that would be also a quantitative research. So ang main thought natin when it comes to quantitative research is that this research are related to numbers. So everything that we quantify, every research that involves numbers. So this is part of what you call quantitative research approach. So on the other hand, the exact opposite of that is what we call qualitative research. From the word qualitative research, we will be working on experiences. No, so experiences. So when we say experience, so we will not get survey forms, but we're going to interview our participants. So when we say interview, we are asking open-ended questions, and we let our participants tell us. No, we let our participants tell us what happened, what are their experiences, what are their thoughts, no? So what are their opinions related to something? So we're basically working on words. So unlike kanina in quantitative research, we're working with numbers, but now we're working with words. And guess what, guys? You're going to do both quantitative and qualitative research in an approach we call mixed method research. Okay? And there are three types of mixed method research. So meron tayong sabay or simultaneous, you are gathering quantitative and qualitative data. We call it convergent parallel. We also have an approach wherein we collect quantitative data first, and from quantitative data, once we saw some patterns, we proceed or we select some key informants from the respondents pool, then we interview them. Okay, so we call that the explanatory sequential. And the other one would be exploratory sequential. So when we say exploratory sequential, we start first with qualitative research. Then after that, will be followed by a quantitative research. So what you're going to do would be explanatory sequential type of research. So you're going to do first a quantitative research, and once we analyze the results of quantitative research and we see some patterns, so we're going to identify some of the respondents from your quantitative research to serve as also the interviewees on the qualitative component of your research. Okay, so with that, what we're going to include on your research capsule would be the following. Okay, so ito yung ilalagay po natin. So again, so research approach, mixed method ilagay natin. Convergent parallel, mixed method design for research method and design. Research technique, so you're going to put there, you're going to have survey questionnaire, and of course the interview. You will be having survey questionnaire and of course the interview. And the sampling technique to be discussed today, research domain would be nursing, and delineated factors. So it has something to do with the variables of your current study. So dyan yung ilalagay yung mga you have your beans, di ba? So you have your simulacrum. Inside your simulacrum, you have your variables. So you need to put there your variables of the study. So basically, after our discussion today, we're going to complete this portion of your research capsule. So ano na lang yung natitira dyan sa portion na yan? So what is missing right now would be a discussion on sampling technique. Okay, guys, when you heard of the word research sampling, what are the things that come to your mind when you hear the word research sampling? Anyone? Or any words, synonyms, ideas posted at chat? So pag narinig natin yung word or words na research sampling, yung phrase na research sampling, what does it mean to you? Do you have any background regarding research sampling? Okay, elements. Okay? So pag sa ating research sampling, we are working on the elements, no? Or the ones who will be participating, no? Kaya nga sabi ni Paul John, we are talking about the respondents, and of course, we're also talking about the participants. Okay. Uh, any more? Okay. So according to one of your classmates with a direct message, so collection, yes. So that's also possible. Okay. So when you heard of the word sampling with the ing, so meaning this is the process. Diba? Diba? So when you have a word that is attached to ing, so it means this is actually a process. Okay? So what is sampling? Technically, no? So technically, sampling is a technique of selecting individuals or members or a subset of the population to make a statistical inference from them and estimate the characteristic of the whole population. So if we're going to make it simple, when we say sampling, that is the process of selecting study participants. Okay? Simply, it refers to the process of selecting your study participants. For example, no? So, for example, your study involves nursing students. Your study will involve nursing students. Question: are you going to include all nursing students in the Philippines? If your study will involve nursing students, question: are you going to involve all nursing students in the Philippines? Yeah, so pwede kang, so for example, yung study mo nga, no, so just like what we mentioned, we're going to involve nursing students. Question: are you going to include all nursing students in the Philippines? Why and why not? You're going to uh, identify only those nursing students who will qualify for your study. Okay, another reason, if my study involves nursing students, why should why shouldn't I include all nursing students in the Philippines or all around the world? Okay, actually, possible naman siya. The problem is, it's not practical and it's not logical. Correct? Yes, very good. Okay, and just like what was mentioned in the direct chat, no po, kasi masyado pong malawak yung magiging population, mahirapan pong mag-gather ng data. Okay, so that is what we call practicality. Practicality and logicality. No? Practicality and of course you have your logicality. So it's not feasible. Sometimes it's not feasible for us to gather data as big as that. No? So what we're going to do is we're going to only select those who will participate on our study. And what is the process of what is that process? Anong tawag natin sa process na yan? We call that what? We call that sampling. Okay. So we call that sampling. Okay. Question. If I'm going to select only those who will participate in my study, will it represent the whole population? Can it represent the whole population? For example, let me give you an example. Okay. Uh, our study is all about the responses of OLFU nursing students. Okay. So we're going to involve OLFU nursing students. And there are, example, 5,000 nursing students. If I'm going to select only those who will participate, let's say, sabihin natin, a portion lang. Sabihin natin, mga around 500. If we're going to include only 500 respondents, can it represent the whole population? Is that a representative of the whole population? Can it represent? What do you think? Meaning, if we're going to identify the responses of the 500, and if we're going to include all the members of the population 5,000, similar yung magiging responses nila if we're going to take the average. Is that possible? What do you think? Any wild guess? Okay, so I have a direct answer here. Yes, sir. The sample must represent the whole population. Yes po. That is possible if our sampling technique is randomized. Okay? That is possible if we're going to use what we call randomized sampling. Okay. Di ba kayo nagtataka? Minsan, di ba, for example, malapit na yung election. So sometimes, gumagawa sila ng tinatawag natin mga survey. Sino yung nangunguna sa election? And it will end up at the end of the day that they have the same. The result of the election is just the same. Pero if you're going to take a look, how many participants responded to the social weather survey, no? Nung for example, sabihin natin yung Pulse Asia, no? Ilan lang ang respond sa Metro Manila, sabihin natin 1,000 lang. Eh ilan ang Pilipino? Ilang milyon ang mga Pilipino, for example, na botante. 'Di ba? Pero at the end of the day, napansin nyo, same yung lumalabas na no, na nagli-lead sa mga survey. So sila yung mga talaga nagtatap ng mga no, ng election, etc. Okay. So that is possible. That is possible. If we're going to do what we call random sampling. If na-randomized yan, if hindi ka nag-bias, for example, pipiliin ko lang yung mga taga Valenzuela, no? So hindi random 'yun kasi you selected it, no? Intentionally. But if you're going to do what you call random sampling, believe it or not, if you're going to get the responses of the whole population, at the end of the day, same lang sila. So therefore, kung i-include mo lahat ng members ng population o kaya magsasampling ka lang, if they're going to end up with the same result, kasi nag-randomize ka, ano mas practical na gamitin? Are you going to include all the members of the population or are you going to do what you call randomized sampling? Considering of the resources that you're going to use in your study, which is more practical. Randomized sampling. Okay, randomized sampling. Very good. Kasi why waste your time in including all the members of the population? And at the end of the day, when you randomize, you're going to receive the exact result. Guys, believe it or not, you know what? Previously, hindi ako naniniwala na, hindi, konti lang, portion lang yun eh. Na yung tipong iba pa din kapag alam mo yung lahat sila nag-respond. But believe it or not, guys, it will arrive at the same result. These are what you call the magic of numbers. Okay? At possible lang yon kapag ikaw ay nag-randomize. And later, we're going to discuss that. So, for us to be able to understand that more clearly, think of sampling as blood typing. Okay? Think of sampling as blood typing. For example, if I'm going to test your blood type, do I need to remove all of your blood? Or should I get only sample of your blood? Whole blood or a sample of your blood?
Sample.
Yes, syempre sample lang. So yung sampling, para din ganyan yun. You don't need to get or to extract the blood of a person, the whole blood of the person, for you to identify the type. No? So you can only get a portion of that blood sample. And the process on identifying the members of the population who will be participating in your study, we call that the process of sampling. Okay? So for you to be able to understand that more clearly, I created this I created this animation. Okay. So around the world, we have what we call the total population of humanity. So in sampling, we call that the universe. Okay, we call that the universe. Question, if you're going to do a certain research, will you be needing all the population or the universe? Yes or no? If you're going to do a certain study, do you need to include all the population in the world? Yes, no, because your study will focus only on one aspect, on one subject, right? So meaning, out of the total population of the world, you have specific target based on your criteria. So for example, your study will involve nursing students. So therefore, not all are what? Valid respondents to your survey or to your research. So we call that the target population. Okay, and from the target population, for example, nursing students, yun yung target population nyo. May nursing students all around the world. May nursing students sa America. May nursing students sa Pilipinas. May nursing students sa Japan. Question, can you reach out to all of them? No. There's this portion of the population that are known as the accessible population. So meaning, these are the population that are available to the researcher. A subset of the target population that is available to the researcher. So most probably ang available lang sa inyo yung nasa Pilipinas. Ang tawag natin doon ay accessible population. Okay, yes, accessible population. And part of that accessible population is yung mas malapit sa inyo. For example, buong Pilipinas. So syempre, hindi kayo kukuha ng respondents coming from the whole Philippines. Definitely, kukuha lang kayo, sabihin natin, sa may bandang Metro Manila lang. So those that are part of the subset of the accessible population na mas madaling hanapin ng researcher, we call that the sampling frame. Okay? Yun yung sampling frame. Eh syempre, dahil Fatima student kayo, we will not tire ourselves getting samples from other schools. So you might want to just focus on nursing students at Our Lady of Fatima University. And that is what you call the final sample. So the final sample is the actual subject or the group of subjects in your study. Okay? At yung proseso ng pagkuha ng actual subjects from the sampling frame or those accessible to the researcher is what we call sampling procedure. Okay? So for me to be able to graph that beautifully, so when you say population, that is entire humanity. When you say target, it's a subset of population or set of individuals who have the characteristic required by the researcher. So yung criteria ng study nyo. And we also have what you call the accessible population, those that are available to the researcher. And part of that accessible cohort would be a group of respondents that are readily accessible to you. So we call that the sampling frame. And the actual persons who participated in your study are what you call the sample. Okay? Or the process of extracting the sample from the sample frame is what you call what? Sampling. No? Yung proseso ng pagkuha ng sample from the sampling frame is what you call, of course, sampling. So let me give you some sort of an example. So this is a simulacrum of one of my groups now handled last year. And the title of the study is Predictors of Filipino Nursing Faculty Performance in Blended Learning Environments. So if we're going to take a look at the counterpart, anong population yan? Entire humanity. Anong target mo lang? All nursing faculty. Ang accessible lang sa'yo ay nursing faculty in the Philippines. Ang sampling frame mo lang ay yung mga nursing faculty sa NCR. At yung actual na gagamitin mo sa study mo would be what you call the sample. Okay? So ito yung nursing faculty that you decided to be part of the study. Example, yung nasa Our Lady of Fatima University lang. Okay? So again, yung proseso ng pagkuha ng actual na subject sa inyong study ay tinatawag nating sampling, no? Yung proseso nun. Okay. So let us now dig deeper into what you call the different types of sampling. So in research, we have two types of sampling, and these are categorized into two groups, no? So yung types ng mga sampling approaches natin, so we have two groups. So we have what we call the probability and the non-probability sampling. So when we say probability sampling, we are giving everyone a chance to be included in the study. Okay? And another one is what you call the non-probability sampling. So meaning, you are not giving everyone an equal chance to be included in the study. So just like um, yung probability sampling, ang other term dyan ay randomized sampling. Yung non-probability, dyan sa type ng sampling approaches na yan, ang isang one of the synonyms ng non-probability sampling ay non-randomized. Okay? Susulat ko para hindi natin makalimutan. Pag sinabi nating probability, ito yung tinatawag nating randomized sampling. Okay? Yung non-probability, ito yung tinatawag nating non-randomized sampling. So therefore, no, if you want the whole population to be represented, anong gagawin natin? Randomization. And when we say randomization, probability sampling. Pag sinabi nating probability sampling, we give everybody an equal chance to be included in the study. Whereas, when we talk about non-probability sampling, we don't give equal chance to everyone to be included in the study. Okay, I'm going to give you some example. For example, I'm going to do a raffle. Okay. So magpapa-raffle ako ng stuffed toy. Okay? So kilala nyo ba to? Kilala nyo to? This is my favorite cartoon character. Sino
Sonic.
to? Guy. Yes, si Sonic. Okay, ito yung favorite cartoon character ko. So this Sonic plush toy was given by my sister to me, no? Yan. So dinala ko siya dito sa US. So magpapa-raffle ako ng Sonic stuffed toy. Paano ko magpapa-raffle? I can put all your names in a fishbowl. Then, I'm going to pick from there. Question, am I giving everybody a chance to be included or to win, a chance to win the plush toy? Am I giving everybody a chance? If I'll put your names in a fishbowl, then I will randomly pick one person. Am I giving you equal chance?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Mga sagot nyo magpa-raffle nga kaya ako noon. Magpa-raffle. Raffle tayo na iPhone. Na joke. Joke lang. Okay. So I'm giving you a chance. Everybody has a chance, an equal chance to be picked to win that plush toy. Correct? Correct. Okay. So anong tawag doon? Probability sampling. Meaning you're going to randomize. However, if I'm going to put only the names of my students that I know and those students that I think are excelling in the class, am I giving equal chance to anybody, to everyone, to be picked? No. So ang tawag natin doon ay non-probability, meaning non-randomized. Okay? Is that clear? Yes. Kapag probability, I'm giving everyone equal chance to be included. When you say non-probability, I'm not giving an equal chance to everybody to be included in the study. Okay, and which one is better? If you are working on quantitative research, mas maganda randomize. Because at the end of the day, it will give you, of course, a similar result if you're going to get the pulse of the total population. Okay, under probability sampling, we have 5 types. We have simple random sampling, we have stratified random sampling, we have systematic sampling, we have cluster sampling, and also we have multi-stage sampling. Under non-probability, we have purposive sampling, we have convenience, you have snowball, and of course, you have quota sampling. Okay, so your resources at Canvas, I put there a discussion on these types of sampling, but we're going to summarize everything. So let's focus first on the probability sampling. So under probability sampling, we have 4. So we have what you call the simple random sampling. So first muna tayo, yung tinatawag nating simple random sampling. Okay, in simple random sampling, okay, so when we say simple random sampling, So every ent of the population are included. So for example, we have 100, no? 100 yung ating accessible population. So hindi ko siya i-include lahat. Ang gagawin ko, I'm going to put everyone in a sheet of paper o kaya sabihin natin randomizer, no? I'm going to put their names, encode their names in the computer. Then after that, I'm going to select only 10 or konti yan. So 1,000, for example, yung total accessible population, and I'm going to include only 10% or 100 participants. So I can put their names in the randomizer, okay? And I'm going to generate 100 names. So yun yung tinatawag nating um, simple random sampling. Okay? So that's also similar to what you call the fishbowl technique. When you say fishbowl technique, you put everything, yung names nila sa isa fishbowl, then after that you pick. Okay, so that is what we call simple random sampling. When you say stratified random sampling, from the word stratified, you first identify the groups. No? You first identify the groups. So for example, in a class, if I want the two genders to be represented, I will first divide the group into two, the male group and the female group. And I'm going to pick 50 male, then 50 female. Okay, from the word strata or stratified, no, stratum, I'm going to group first the total population into strata or stratum or groups na, no, strata. So for example, if I want all genders to be represented, I will first divide the group into male and female, and I'm going to pick 50 from male and another would be 50 from female. Okay? So before kayo mag-select or mag-randomize, kailangan i-grupo nyo muna sila based on stratum. So pwede ba yon? Pwede yon. Kaya for example, kapag magawa kami ng research sa Fatima, di ba 6 campuses tayo. So if we want if we want every campus to be represented, kumukuha kami ng percentage of the total population from each of the campus so that everybody are represented from each of the campus of Fatima. So that is stratified sampling. We also have what we call the systematic sampling. So when you say systematic sampling, so what you're going to do is you're going to pick every ent of the population. Okay? So meaning, for example, ililista nyo muna sila, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pwede nyo piliin yung, sabihin natin, even numbers. Yan, systematic yon. O kaya every 5. Diba? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Yung magpo-fall doon, yun yung pipiliin nyo. O kaya every 100. Lilista nyo siya. O kaya, for example, if you have your phone directory, so nakalista yon. So pipiliin nyo yung every 20 or every 50, every 100. So that makes it systematic sampling. And another would be cluster. Pag sinabi natin cluster, usually na pagpapalitan ng estudyante, when we say cluster, ang code natin dito would be regions. Okay, so meaning location. We are talking about location. If we want every location to be represented, we are going to do what we call cluster sampling. It is different from stratified random sampling because at first you're going to divide the whole group into several stratum or classifications. Whereas kapag sinabi natin cluster, we're talking about the location, locality, geography, or region. Okay? So para hindi malito, ganun na lang yung isipin natin. So for example, I'm going to do a study in Kamanava area. I will first identify the regions where they belong. Okay, yung location nila. Saka pagpipik ako from there. Okay? So yung tinatawag nating cluster sampling. Okay? Simple random sampling, again, is just like fishbowl technique. Stratified random sampling, I'm going to group the whole population first into several strata. Okay? Example, gender. Systematic sampling, every ent of the population is systematically sampled. Pwedeng every 5, pwedeng odd, pwedeng even, pwedeng every 10, every 100, every 50. O kaya naman cluster sampling, you're going to pick representations from the different regions or from the different localities. Again, it's different from stratified because stratified, you're going to group them first into several characteristics. But if that characteristic is a region or local, that is what you call cluster sampling. Okay, so ito yung grupo ng probability sampling. So when we say probability sampling, we give equal chance to the population to be included in the study. So kung makikita nyo, all the mechanisms that are involved here, we give equal chance for the population or for every individual to be included in the study. Okay, meron din tayong tinatawag na multi-stage, which also probability. So when we say multi-stage sampling, it is a combination of one or more probability sampling. For example, first, ano mo muna sila, no? Sabihin natin, i-stratify mo muna, then after mo stratify, okay, so pwede mo siyang i-systematic sample for each strata. So yun yung tinatawag nating multi-stage sampling sa combination of one or more approaches in probability sampling. So let us now proceed with what we call non-probability sampling. And in non-probability sampling, we don't give equal chance. We don't give equal chance to the population to be included. Okay, example, yung unang type, yung purposive sampling. When we say purposive sampling, ang keyword that you're going to get or to look in your midterm exam would be what? Criteria. If you set criteria, okay, that is what you call purposive sampling. If you set certain criteria, that's purposive sampling. For example, my study is all about single moms with a child or a baby with a cleft lip. So therefore, what are your criteria? Number one, kailangan kapapanganak lang. Number two, kailangan single mother. And number three, kailangan yung anak niya is cleft lip. So we set certain criteria. Another would be if we're going to do a study with regards to nursing students who frequently drink coffee. So what would be your criteria? Number one, he or she should be enrolled in a bachelor's degree in nursing. Number two, he or she consumes two or more cups of coffee every day. So yon. So you set certain criteria. Pag nakita nyo agad yung criteria, purposive sampling siya. Okay, convenience. Convenience is the weakest form of sampling, no? Because you select participants based on your convenience. Example, your study is all about nursing students. You only distribute the questionnaire to your classmates because they are the ones that you know and they are easily accessible in your group chat. So meaning it's based on your convenience. You select participants based on your convenience or who is readily available for you. No? Who is readily available for you. Next is snowball sampling. Pag sinabing snowball sampling, referral naman siya at tinatawag. Okay. Di ba sabi nga natin, birds of the same feather are of the same birds. Example, you're going to do a study about drug addicts. So meron ka na select na drug addict. Ang gagawin niya, magre-refer siya ng katulad ng drug addict. Pipiliin mo siya. Then yung ni-refer niya, magre-refer din. At yung ni-refer is magre-refer ng another set of population. So that is what you call snowball sampling. Diba? Or sometimes in other books, they call it the network sampling. So based on the network. Diba? Okay, for example, another thing, if you're going to do a research about smoking, so you select your participant who or your friend that you know is a smoker, then your friend will refer those that he or she knew that smokes, no? Na smoker. So yon. So mag-refer ng mag-refer. So snowball siya. So bakit siya tinawag na snowball? 'Di ba kapag, kasi hindi kasi uso sa Pilipinas ang snow eh. For example, dito sa US, if you have that snow, 'di ba? Kapag nagwi-winter kasi dito, which is malapit na, kapag nagwi-winter dito, minsan mga bata lumalabas, tapos bumubuo sila ng mga snowball. Tapos ang gagawin nila, magpapalibagan sila ng magto-throw sila ng snowball dun sa mga kalaro nila. So yun yung sampling, no? Ikaw, magpi-pinpoint ka or mag-identify ka ng isang tao na that will share the same characteristics. Okay? So snowball sampling. And another would be quota sampling. So for example, I'm going to set a number of respondents in your research. So for example, sa grupo nyo, sige, dapat meron kayo minimum of 150 respondents. So from that quota, you're going to meet that. You're going to identify 150 participants in your study. Okay? So based on quota, you fill the number of participants based from quota. Okay? So in your examination, ang mangyayari dyan, I'm going to identify the type of sampling, the sampling, the specific sampling approach. Tapos identify nyo siya kung probability or non-probability. And I'm going to define or I'll give a scenario wherein nagsampling yung researcher, then you need to identify if that is purposive, convenience sample, snowball, quota, systematic, simple random sampling. Okay? So you need to identify. So guys, do you have any questions with regards to sampling? So what are the two types again? So first one is probability or randomized. And the second one would be non-probability or non-randomized. Which one is better in quantitative research? So you have your probability sampling because you are randomizing. So at this point, let us now take a look at your tool and research instrument. Okay, so after we identify sino yung magiging respondents natin, another area that we need to decide would be what are the instrument or tools that we're going to use. For clinical research, medyo mabilis siya kasi for example, okay, I'm going to get the temperature. So syempre, ano yung tool na gagamitin mo? Thermometer. You will include, for example, blood pressure as one of your variable. Anong tool or instrument ang gagamitin? Sphygmo, manometer. If you're going to include oxygen saturation, so definitely you're going to include pulse oximeter as your tool or instrument. However, in simple research, no, yung mga descriptive research, yung mga survey type research katulad ng gagawin natin, we need to identify a certain questionnaire that will measure your variable. Okay, actually, if you're going to take a look at your Canvas, isa yan sa mga submissions nyo, no? Group work nyo that you're going to submit until next week. Ang question, how many instruments are we going to obtain? Okay? So, you look at your simulacrum because it will tell you how many instruments are you going to use. So pag sinabi nating instrument, hindi to yung napakahabang questionnaire. So pwedeng sa isang variable, mga 5 questions lang, pwede yun. O kaya sa isang variable, meron siyang 10 questions. So something like that. Okay? So just like for example, itong simulacrum na to sa first. Dapat, meron kang questionnaire that will measure quality of work life, work values, employee ownership, intention to work, and demographic profile. Another, in this particular research, itong simulacrum na to, dapat you have a tool to measure faculty performance. You have a tool that will identify demographic profile, gender, male, female, etc. Ganyan. Techno-stress, teaching style, LMS activity. Another would be here. Ilan ng variables niya? 1, 2, 3, 4. So, 4 na variables. So, therefore, you need to have a questionnaire or tool that will measure perceived academic stress, Merong demographic profile, depende yan sa ma-identify nyo. Kung if you're going to use age, gender, civil status, etc. Okay, Zoom fatigue. You should look for a questionnaire that will measure Zoom fatigue and pandemic anxiety. And you know what? You already have your simulacrum, so therefore we can identify how many uh, questionnaires, or tools that we're going to adapt. Diba? Okay, guys. At this point, may I ask, have you tried ordering from Shopee, Lazada, yung mga online shopping, add to cart? Have you tried that? Okay, sige. And may I know nga, ano ba yung mga usually binibili ng mga estudyante sa Shopee, Lazada? Ano ba usually binibili nyo, guys? I'm just curious if you can share. Album. Album. So, craft making, no? How about others? How about clothes? Hindi ba mahirap kapag bumili ng clothes? Kasi 'di ba, pag tapos iba pala yung size, hindi pala sakto. Hindi ba mahirap? Alam mo yung mga, for example, small, ganito lang siya, or kung ang fitted talaga sa'yo, for example, extra small. So every time that you're going to select, same. Okay. May free size din pala. May mga free size din pala. So, yun. Okay. So, let's assume, no? Let's assume that I'm going to buy from Shopee. Okay? So, what is this? What's this? Rice cooker. Okay. Kapag na-deliver na yung rice cooker, ano yung i-check ko? If the rice cooker is working. Correct? What if, for example, if I'm going to buy a temperature gun, tinatawag, okay, can I also check if it is not defective? Right? Di ba? So kapag bumili ako pagkadating nung product, I'm going to check if it is working or not defective. So the same is true with selecting your survey measures or tools. You need to ensure that they are valid and reliable before you can use it on your study. So pag sinabi nating valid, it's accurate. Okay, accurate. So meaning it will measure what it's supposed to measure. If ang mini-measure niya ay, for example, ang in-identify niya ay gender, dapat ang content niya ay male and female. Okay, and kailangan reliable siya or consistent siya. Meaning, every time na ibibigay ko yon, if I'm going to give that questionnaire to the same respondent, no, dapat same yung magiging response niya. So yun yung tinatawag nating reliability. At ang reliability ng isang questionnaire ay ina-express doon sa values na tinatawag nating Cronbach's alpha. So parang computation yan. Computation yan. For example, meron akong questionnaire, tapos bago lang yung questionnaire, tapos identify ko kung siya ba ay reliable or hindi. Yan, sige. Let's take a look. So ang Cronbach's alpha kasi value siya, no? Na kino-compute siya doon sa questionnaire para malaman kung siya ay reliable. So ang Cronbach's alpha, ang value niya is between 0 and 1.0. No? So ang acceptable na Cronbach's alpha score for me is 7.75 and up. So kapag ang reliability or Cronbach's alpha score ng isang questionnaire ay 0.75 and up or 75%, that is considered for me as reliable na. Okay? So yun. Question, Doc, how are we going to get measurement or tools for our study? So before we answer that, let us take a look first. What are the different types of measurement or tools or survey forms that we're using for a study? So we have three types of tools in a study. No? Meron tayong tinatawag na adapted questionnaire. So meron tayong adapted questionnaire. So when we say adapted questionnaire, these are ready-made. And you don't need to modify. No need to modify. So meron na tayo mga questionnaires or tools na available from the internet. But when you use it, you don't do modifications na. So ang tawag natin doon ay adopted questionnaire. Di ba? Next, we also have what we call the adapted with an A, adapted questionnaire. And this questionnaire are also ready-made. However, you did some modifications to make it more fitted to the study. Okay, example. Meron ako nakita, may studies all about laptop, no? About technology competency ng mga estudyante on how to use laptop. Technology competency, no? That tool will measure their competency in using a laptop. However, what I saw from the internet is a tool that will measure technological competency of a person in using cell phone. Can I use that questionnaire? But instead na smartphone yung nakalagay doon or cellphone, pwede ko bang palitan yung mga word na cellphone ng laptop? Pwede ba yun? Pwede. So that is what we call adapted. So these are ready-made questionnaires. However, you did some minor modifications to make it more fitted in the study. O kaya naman, applicable din to, no? For example, you are adopting a questionnaire that comes from other countries. For example, in Canada, siyempre, hindi naman same ang practice sa Canada sa Pilipinas. May mga terminologies that is not applicable in the Philippines because they have different types of nursing practice. Sabihin natin, for example, sa Canada, meron silang tinatawag na DNP. Meron silang tinatawag na nursing assistant. Pero dito sa Philippines, we only have one degree preparation for nurses. Bachelor's degree lang yun. Lahat nun ay nurses ka. Walang clinical assistant, walang nurse assistant, diba? So something like that. So may mga instances na you can modify slightly yung questionnaire to make it more fitted in your study, especially if you're going to apply or use the questionnaire in the Philippines, right? Okay. Next would be what you call the researcher-made questionnaire. Sometimes, wala tayong makitang eksaktong questionnaire that will measure our variable. No? Wala tayong makitang questionnaire that will measure our variable. So sometimes, gumagawa tayo ng sarili nating questions. So ang tawag dyan ay researcher-made, or what we call questionnaires that are created by the researcher. Okay? So ito yung created by the researcher. So there are three types of questionnaires or tool, no? Adapted, ready-made, no modification. Adapted with an A, ready-made, but you modify slightly to make it more fitted to the study. And another would be researcher-made, or the researcher is the one who created the questionnaire items. Question, which one is better? The better option would be adapted. Why? Because it's ready-made na, and no modifications ka na, meaning fitted talaga dun sa study mo. Wala kang changes. Bakit adapted? Kasi ito yung tinatawag natin mga standardized questionnaire. Usually, ang mga adapted questionnaire that were used in published studies, just like yung mga research that you can see in Science Direct, lahat sila is na standardized na. Meaning, na-check na ang validity at reliability nila. Okay. Na-check na ang valid and reliable na siya. Whereas, kapag minodify mo ang isang ready-made na questionnaire, kailangan mo pang i-check ang validity and reliability. Establish mo pa. So, meaning magko-compute ka pa. Ipapilot mo pa yan. And, kapag researcher-made yan, mas marami kang hirap. Diba? Magkikreate ka pa ng questions, ipapilot mo pa siya, assess mo pa validity niya, assess mo pa yung reliability niya. So, mahirapan ka. So, therefore, for practicality and for accuracy ng research mo, para mas okay siya, much better na gagamit ka ng mga tools na created na at na-validated na check na ang reliability. Ang tawag natin doon ay standardized questionnaires. Okay? So, these are questionnaires that are ready-made with no modification. So, ang question nito, saan natin ito makikita? In previous studies, they have their questionnaires. Question, do we need to ask permission? Do we need to ask permission kung gagamitin natin yung questionnaire from a certain study? Okay, you need to ask permission if the researcher will mention sa paper niya that you need to ask permission. However, if wala siyang na-mention that you need to ask permission or walang copyright yung questionnaire niya, you can just cite the researcher. Sa cite nyo lang siya. Kung gamitin nyo yung research tool na ginamit niya, pero isa-cite nyo siya. So, ang tawag natin doon ay tools that are located in the public domain. So, meaning, yung mga tools na located in the public domain, you can easily use them. However, you need to give attribution or citation. Kaya nga, di ba, kapag nagbabasa kayo ng research, minsan nakikita nyo sa method section, this study made use of the UTAUT questionnaire developed by Venkatesh et al. In 2013. Di ba? So, minimension nyo doon kung ano yung ginagamit nyo na questionnaire sa isang variable, tapos magbibigay kayo ng details. Sinong naggawa, anong reliability score nito, at bakit siya yung napili nyo because this is the most feasible, ito yung pinaka-appropriate for the type of the population. So, something like that. Okay? So, klaro po ba tayo doon? Klaro po tayo doon? Okay, so yon. So, let us now proceed. Let me give you a motivating example. Kung ito yung research nyo, this is your research simulacrum, how many variables are there? Showing you the simulacrum, how many variables are there? So, you have 6 variables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Question, how many measurement or tools do you need? How many? Kung meron kayo 6 na variable, how many tools or measurements do you need? 6
din
din.
po, sir.
Yes, very good. So meaning, you should have a portion in your questionnaire that will assess demographic profile. You have questions that will measure or assess vaccine acceptance. You have questionnaire that will assess risk-taking behavior, pandemic experience, and health knowledge. So magbigay tayo ng example. One variable in this particular simulacrum is the health-related quality of life. So Doc MJ, how can we search for questionnaires that will measure health-related quality of life? Okay. Technique number 1, use Google. Use Google. Pero syempre, you check pa rin yung appropriateness. No? So for example, I'm going to open my Google and I will type there health-related quality of life questionnaire. And there are choices. Health-related quality of life or health-related QL by CDC. What is CDC? Center for Disease Control. Is one of the most notable organizations here in the US. So, i-click ko yun. Pero ang dami pang choices dyan. Pag kinlik ko yan, ito yung lalabas. Oh, can I already download the questionnaire? Yes. Nandun na siya, oh. Di ba? So, pwede ko na siyang gamitin. Pero when I further click on that, makikita natin, may report on the validity and reliability of that questionnaire. Di ba? Ready na. So, I can use that na. Okay, another example. From a group of students, okay, let us pick technostress. Okay? So, approach number 2. If you can't get from Google, you check research databases. Example, Science Direct. Or, another database is what we call the PubMed database. PubMed.gov ata yan. Basta PubMed. Ito yung tsura ng PubMed. So, ang PubMed is a database of research na related sa health. Okay, so for example, PubMed.gov, click nyo lang dyan, technostress measure. Kapag kinlik ko yung search, nakita nyo yung una, yung mga choices. Yung unang result Technostress in Spanish university students, validation of a measurement scale. Oh, nag-publish sila ng research na nag-validate nila yung Technostress questionnaire. So, gagawin kayo, open ko yan. At makikita nyo, yan, pwede nyo ma-download yung article. Okay? Pag kinlik nyo yung isa dyan, makikita nyo yung details ng questionnaire. At sa dulo, nahandoon yung exact questionnaire na ginamit nila. Di ba? Pahirapan niyo pa ba yung sarili niyo na gumawa ng questionnaire? Meron nang validated at reliable questionnaire na. Di ba? It's either adopted or adopted. So, yun. So, very exciting yan. Maghanap ng questionnaire or tool or measure na gagamitin nyo for each specific variable. Okay? So, yun. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions?
Sir, please po.
Yes.
If ever po sakali ang gagamitin namin is yung adaptive, yung adapt na with letter
Adapted.
A po. Yeah, adapted.
Adapted.
Yes.
Okay.
An klaseng citation din po ba yung gagamitin namin if kahit po i-modify namin siya?
Yes. So, for example, this study will use an adapted health-related quality of life questionnaire made by CDC or the Center for Disease Control. The researchers modified 3 items to make it more fitted to the current study. Pero kapag nag-adapt ka, kailangan natin i-pilot pa yan. Siselect tayo ng 10 respondents tapos i-compute ko yung reliability score kapag adapted. So, yun yung additional step if you will be using researcher-made or yung adapted questionnaire.
Thank you
Okay? Okay. So, yun. For every questionnaire, usually, maraming choices. No? For example, stress or personality questionnaire. Usually, madaming choices. Pero syempre, paano kayo pipili ng right questionnaire? So, there are several items that you need to consider. Pwedeng research purpose. Ano ba yung research purpose nyo? Baka similar yung research...
Sabay yung baba.
Mute ko muna. Okay. So, baka similar yung research paper nyo from the previous study na nakinonduct sa ibang bansa. You might as well select that kasi mas fitted yung questionnaire na ginamit. Another would be validity and reliability. So, kapag validated and standardized ang questionnaire, valid and reliable na siya. You just need to mention or describe the questionnaire as to validity and reliability. Next one is administrability. For example, merong health-related quality of life questionnaire na 30 items. Meron din naman 6 items lang. Which one will you use? Siyempre, yung 6 items lang. Kasi mas kokonti siya. Diba? Pero kung titingnan nyo yung validity and reliability statistics niya, pareho lang. So therefore, why use 30 item if you can measure the same concept doon sa 6-item questionnaire? Di ba? So administrability, that is very much important. Kasi kapag gumawa ka ng research at nagpa-answer ka ng questionnaire na 30 items, sabihin natin, or more than 50 items, you might not get reliable result from your participants. Bakit? Kasi yung iba, lulukuhin lang nila yan. Ang tawag natin doon ay respondent fatigue. And this is common, especially kapag, common yan kapag ang questionnaire mo ay masyadong madami at hindi na sineseryoso ng respondents mo. Which is a normal occurrence kapag masyadong madami. Diba? So, kapag masyadong madami. No? So, yung administrability is really important. Another would be permission. So, sabi ko nga kanina, kapag nasa public domain siya, you don't need to ask permission, but you need to cite them. However, if the author explicitly mentioned that you need to ask permission, you need to email the researcher. Another tip, aside from Google, aside from PubMed, you can also search ResearchGate. Ang daming questionnaire doon. Search nyo lang. Tapos, request kayo ng, message nyo yung researcher. That's exciting. Nakaka-excite, especially kapag nagre-respond sila sa'yo. Tapos bibigay nila yung ginamit na questionnaire. So that's it. So we'll just cite them. Di ba? Ako, for example, I published 2 studies that validated a certain questionnaire, development and validation of a tool to measure knowledge translation in the clinical area. Every now and then, ang dami ng nagsasite doon sa paper na yon. Kaya ayan. No? So ayan. So ito developing a valid and reliable assessment of knowledge translation for continuing professional development. So, ayan siya. Nakita nyo, na-cite na siya ng 3 beses. Kasi ginamit yung tool na ginamit na kinreate namin. Ayan siya. Ayan, no? Nag-create kami ng questionnaire. Ayan, no? Tapos, magagamit nyo siya. Yung ginamit namin questionnaire. Binalidate na mismo namin siya. Okay, works. Ito ang dami. Ito. Development and validation of a standardized tool to measure global health competency among professional nurses. Another would be ito pa. Development and validation of interprofessional learning assessment tool for health professionals. So if you're going to open that, ayan. Meron kaming ginawang questionnaire at binalidate namin siya. Yan. Toxic, di ba? Ayan, no? Ito yung questionnaire. So, pwede nyo siyang gamitin that you can work on your group. Okay? So, just to go back to our discussion. So, iyan yung assignment nyo doon sa Canvas. You're going to identify in the first column your research variables. Then, sa second column, i-mention nyo kung ano yung type at ano yung pangalan ng tool na gagamitin nyo. Pwedeng researcher-made, pwedeng adapted, pwedeng adopted. Tapos, dun sa third column, i-describe nyo lang yung questionnaire. Ilang items siya, paano siya sinasagutan, ano yung scaling niya, ano yung validity, reliability niya. So, meron tayong sample na pinost doon sa Canvas. Okay? So, kung wala na pong question, so we will end there. So, just to wrap things up, so we discussed sampling. We discussed also the process of identifying and getting, of course, your measurement tools, or questionnaires that you can use for your study. So, with that, guys, so thank you very much for attending our synchronous session. Bye-bye.